Summary of Chapter 4 of You Become What You Think. Chapter 4 of You Become What You Think focuses on emotional strength, mental discipline, and the role of attitude during difficult situations. In the previous chapters, the author explains the power of thoughts, beliefs, habits, and action. In this chapter, the discussion moves deeper into how people react to challenges, pain, failure, and uncertainty. The chapter teaches that life will always contain problems, disappointments, and struggles. However, a person's inner attitude determines whether those experiences become sources of growth or sources of defeat. The main idea of the chapter is your attitude toward life's difficulties shapes your emotional strength and future success. The author encourages readers to stop allowing negative emotions to completely control their minds. Instead, they should develop patience, resilience, self-control, and optimism. One life is full of challenges. The chapter begins by explaining that difficulties are a natural part of life. No person lives without failure, rejection, stress, pain, disappointment, or uncertainty. Many people suffer more because they expect life to always be smooth and comfortable. When problems appear, they become emotionally weak and hopeless. The author explains that mentally strong people understand that challenges are unavoidable. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this situation?" This change in mindset creates emotional maturity. Two problems can become opportunities. One of the most important lessons in Chapter 4 is that problems can help people grow stronger. The author explains that many successful individuals developed wisdom, discipline, and confidence through difficult experiences. Hardships often teach patience, emotional control, resilience, problem-solving, and self-awareness. The chapter says comfort alone rarely creates strong character. For example, failure teaches preparation. Rejection teaches emotional strength. Struggle teaches persistence. People who avoid every difficulty often remain mentally weak. 3 emotional reactions shape life. The chapter discusses how uncontrolled emotions create unnecessary suffering. Many people react impulsively with anger, frustration, jealousy, fear, or negativity. The author explains that emotional reactions often damage relationships, opportunities, and peace of mind. For example, anger may destroy trust. Jealousy may create bitterness. Fear may stop progress. Overthinking may increase anxiety. The chapter encourages readers to pause before reacting emotionally. Mentally mature people learn to think calmly, respond wisely, and control temporary emotions. 4. Anger is a dangerous emotion. A major section of the chapter focuses on anger. The author explains that anger itself is natural, but uncontrolled anger becomes destructive. When people lose emotional control, they speak harshly, make poor decisions, hurt relationships, and later regret their behavior. The chapter says anger often grows from ego, unrealistic expectations, impatience, insecurity, or lack of emotional control. The author advises readers to remain silent during intense anger, avoid immediate reactions, and calm the mind before responding. Patience is described as a sign of strength, not weakness. 5. Patience creates stability. Another important lesson is patience. The author explains that modern life encourages impatience. People want immediate success, instant money, quick recognition, and fast results. When progress becomes slow, many people lose hope. The chapter teaches that meaningful success requires time, discipline, consistency, and emotional endurance. Patience allows people to continue moving forward without becoming emotionally broken by temporary setbacks. The author compares life to planting seeds. Growth happens gradually. Invisible progress occurs before visible results appear. 6. Overthinking weakens the mind. The chapter also discusses overthinking. According to the author, many people create unnecessary suffering by constantly imagining negative possibilities. Overthinking leads to stress, confusion, anxiety, fear, and mental exhaustion. People repeatedly replay past mistakes, future worries, embarrassing moments, or imaginary failures. The author explains that excessive thinking often prevents action. Instead of living in constant mental noise, readers are encouraged to focus on the present, solve problems step by step, and avoid creating imaginary disasters. 7. Self-control is a form of power. The chapter strongly emphasizes self-control. True strength is not shown by controlling others, but by controlling oneself. A person with self-control can remain calm during criticism, avoid impulsive decisions, resist negative habits, and stay focused during challenges. The author explains that people who lack self-control become slaves to emotions, distractions, anger, laziness, and temporary desires. Self-control creates discipline, respect, stability, and long-term success. 8. Positive attitude changes perspective. The chapter teaches that attitude influences how people experience life. Two people may face the same problem, but interpret it differently. One may think, "My life is ruined." Another may think, "This situation will make me stronger." The author says attitude affects emotional health, confidence, motivation, and resilience. A positive attitude does not mean denying pain. It means refusing to let pain completely destroy hope. The chapter encourages readers to develop optimism even during difficult times. 9. Complaining creates negativity. Another important topic is the habit of complaining. The author explains that constant complaining trains the mind to focus only on problems. People who complain excessively often feel helpless, blame others, and ignore opportunities for improvement. Complaining spreads negative energy both internally and externally. Instead of constant complaints, the chapter encourages gratitude, problem solving, and constructive action. The author explains that while everyone faces difficulties, mentally strong people focus more on solutions than excuses. 10. Gratitude brings peace. Gratitude is presented as a powerful emotional practice. The chapter explains that many people remain unhappy because they focus only on what they lack. They ignore relationships, health, opportunities, knowledge, and personal progress. Gratitude shifts attention from scarcity to abundance. The author says grateful individuals usually experience more peace, emotional balance, stronger relationships, and greater satisfaction. The chapter encourages readers to appreciate small blessings instead of constantly chasing external validation. 11. Your environment influences emotions. The chapter again discusses the impact of surroundings. Negative environments filled with criticism, anger, gossip, fear, and negativity can damage emotional health. positive environments filled with encouragement, learning, respect, and discipline support mental growth. The author advises readers to protect their minds from toxic influences whenever possible. The people around us influence our emotional state more than we often realize. 12. Forgiveness helps emotional freedom. The chapter briefly discusses forgiveness. Holding hatred and resentment for long periods creates emotional heaviness. The author explains that forgiveness does not mean approving wrong behavior. Instead, it means refusing to carry emotional poison inside the mind. People who remain trapped in bitterness often suffer mentally even after situations have ended. Forgiveness allows emotional healing and peace. 13. Confidence comes from inner stability. The chapter explains that true confidence comes from emotional balance rather than external success alone. Some people appear successful externally, but remain emotionally insecure internally. Real confidence develops when a person controls emotions, handles criticism calmly, remains patient, and trusts personal growth. Inner stability creates lasting strength. 14. Difficult times reveal character. Toward the end of the chapter, the author explains that difficult situations reveal true character. Anyone can remain positive during easy times. Real mental strength appears during stress, failure, uncertainty, and emotional pain. Challenges expose patience, discipline, courage, and emotional maturity. The author encourages readers to use difficult experiences as opportunities for self-development, rather than emotional collapse. Main message of Chapter 4. The central message of Chapter 4 is: mental strength is developed through emotional control, patience, positive attitude, and resilience during difficult times. The author teaches that people cannot always control external events, but they can control reactions, mindset, attitude, and emotional discipline. Inner peace and success depend greatly on emotional intelligence and self-control. Final conclusion. Chapter 4 of You Become What You Think teaches that life difficulties are unavoidable, but suffering increases when people lose emotional control and develop negative attitudes. The chapter encourages readers to practice patience, control anger, stop overthinking, develop gratitude, and remain emotionally strong during challenges. The author explains that true growth happens not when life is easy, but when a person learns to remain mentally balanced during hardship. The entire chapter can be summarized in one sentence: your attitude and emotional control during difficult situations determine the strength of your character and the direction of your life.